our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam studies. Hare Krishna, Shanvati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, please repeat. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nanda gopa kumaraya govindaya namo namah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji. So today we will be studying third chapter of the second canto. We're meeting after a break of 2 weeks because we had two Rath Yatra, one in Liverpool and then last one we had in Glenfield last Saturday, return Rath Yatra, which was on the 8th day of the Rath Yatra. We all celebrated that. So in the first two chapters, just a quick recap for your benefit. In the first two chapters, so the 2.1, Shukdev Goswami starts speaking, and the question asked by Parikshit Maharaj, like I said last time, it is very important we focus on the question. If we understand the question, then the answers will make sense to us. So the question that was asked by Parikshit Maharaj when Shukdev Goswami arrived into that assembly was that he said Purushasya iha mriyamanasya sarvatha yat karyam purushasya iha yat karyam mriyamanasya sarvatha, that the Purush, the living entity, I mean there are 84 million, but he's specifically referring to the Purush, to the human beings, Manushya. So he's saying they are always destined to die. So what is it that they should be doing? And then he asked, in the next verse he asked, yat karyam, yeah, yat shrotavyam atho japyam yat karyam nirbhi prabho, yeah, smartavyam bhajaniyam va bruhi yadva viparyam. What a person should do who is always about to die, and what they should hear, what they should remember, what they should do, and also tell me what they should not be doing. So that was his questions. And then Shukdev Goswami started speaking, and in the first chapter, he described he first described that the human being, how we are so much entangled into our personal relationship, and how we think that we can be saved or protected by our wives, by our children. Deha patya kalatra adishu asat, yeah, they are asat. They, as in my body, my wife, my children, they can protect me. We all feel that, they will be able to save me. Deha patya kalatra adishu, yeah, atma sen nashwa. He thinks that they are my soldiers, they'll be able to protect me. And then he gets so much entangled into that. Tesham nidhanam pramatto. He is so much engrossed into those feelings, into those relationships. Nidhanam, they are dying. As a son, I saw my father die. But somehow I have a feeling that my children or my family will be able to protect me. Deha patya kalatra adishu atma senashwa. He thinks they are my soldiers. Asat api. Even though they are asat, they are temporary. They will not be able to protect me. But tesham pramatto nidhanam. So much I am attached to them that I see them dying, but pasyan api na pasyan. They are dying, but I still don't see them. I think somehow my family and they will be able to protect me. So he first started explaining for the people who have some material attachment. So he started speaking about them, what they should be doing, how they can develop the affection. So he advised to them that they can first focus on the Sthule Bhagavato Rupe. So they look at this universe and they can see that all these various like trees are are the hairs, on the body of the Supreme Lord. So he starts seeing Lord everywhere. And then the idea is, because if he sees something, then he thinks this belongs to my Lord. And then slowly he starts to develop that attachment. But he concludes that first chapter, Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma Bhagwan Ishwaro Hari. Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Tavyasya Ichchetam Abhyam. Smartavya Ichchetam Abhyam. He concludes saying, Tasmad, therefore, Bharat, O descendant of Maharaj Bharat, Bhagwan Ishwaro Hari, that Supreme Lord Bhagwan who is Sarvatma, who is Ishwar, who is everywhere, that Lord Hari, we should remember, we should hear his glories, we should Shrotavya, we should hear about his glories, Smartavya, we should remember his glory, and we should glorify from the mouth also. Ichcheta Abhyam. If you want to be fearless from the death, then that is what we should be doing. And then in the next chapter, Shukdev Goswami then talks about because there was another class of people sitting in that assembly who were supportive of, or who thinks that going to heavenly planets or going to heaven could be an option as well. And remember, the question is for somebody who is about to die. So then he speaks about the Swarg. He says people going to the heavenly planets, and then what happens with them. And then he finally concludes second chapter by describing the liberation, Sadhya Mukti and Krama Mukti. Sadhya Mukti is people who don't have any material desire, right? And remember, this is Ashtanga Yoga. So the path that he's, because in that assembly where Parikshit Maharaj decided to fast unto death, there were also a class of people sitting there who believed in Ashtanga Yoga, impersonal liberation. Right? But the way Shukdev Goswami is speaking is, he starts with them, he talks about the liberation, and then he concludes that ultimately the ultimate good is worshipping the Supreme Lord Hari. So in the second chapter, he describes how a Sadhya Mukti happens, as in like the immediate liberation through Ashtanga Yoga. And then also he talks about the Kram Mukti, the step-by-step liberation, how a living entity then leaves his body and then he goes to various planetary systems, and then he goes to Brahmalok, and then he passes through the 7 layers, and then finally he goes and merges into the Brahma Jyoti. So those 2 liberations. So he spoke about Sadhya Mukti, he spoke about Kram Mukti, he spoke about the people who are supporting of the going to the heavens. So Shukdev Goswami spoke about that also. But in the end, he concluded that, once again, he concludes here, says, Tasmat Sarvatmana Bharat. Once again, he addresses Parikshit Maharaj. Bhagwan Hari Sarvatra Sarvada. That Lord Hari, Sarvatra, all everywhere, all the time. Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavya, Bhagwan Nirnam. So he concludes that therefore, O Parikshit Maharaj, that Nirnam, the living entities, should all the time, everywhere. That was the question, what they should do all the time. So they should always glorify their Supreme Lord, hear about, and also remember that Supreme Lord, Bhagwan Nirnam. And then he also says that these 2 paths of liberation that I have spoken to you, Parikshit Maharaj, this is his evidence, his reference to the Shastra. He says this is what, these 2 processes that I have spoken to you, they were spoken by Lord Supreme Lord himself to Brahmaji. When he was pleased by Brahmaji, when he performed the penance, so these were spoken by Brahmaji. And then he concludes, he says that nahi anya, there is no other, Shiva Pantha, there is no other auspicious path for the living entity. Nahi anya Shiva Pantha, and then he says Vishuta Samsritau either. For the people who have fallen into this samsara of birth, death, old age and disease, there is no other auspicious path for them other than Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yogo Yato Bhavet, right? But developing the devotional service to that Bhagwan Vasudeva. who is Lord Shri Krishna. And then after speaking that, he again concludes, because in the assembly, the people might ask that Shukdev Goswamiji, this is your opinion. He says, no, no, no. Then he again gives another reference. He says, Bhagwan Brahma Kartasya Nayen. He says, once Lord, Supreme Lord had spoken to Brahmaji. And then what did Brahmaji do? Bhagwan Brahma Kartasya Nayen. Yeah, as in he studied. Brahmaji, he studied, did a detailed study of, and then he says, Trin Anvikshaya Manishaya. Bhagwan spoke to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji 3 times he studied the Vedas. Brahmaji himself, Manishaya, he used his intelligence and he went through all the Vedic literature 3 times. Yeah. And after studying, what did he conclude? Then he says, Tad Adhyasta. Yeah. After studying that, Tad Adhyasta, and then he said that Kutastho Ratir Atmana Yato Bhavet. After studying the Vedas, his conclusion was that Supreme Lord who is inside everyone, Kutastho, yeah, who is everyone, developing that loving devotional service to that Supreme Lord is the conclusion. So Shukdev Goswami then concludes 2nd chapter by speaking like this to Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah, so these were the 2 chapters we discussed. Now today's chapter is titled Demigod Worship. Actually, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has titled this chapter as Demigod Worship, because in the first section of the chapter we talks about demigod worship, and then the second section of the chapter talks about devotional service in the heart. Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada has titled it as Devotional Service in the Heart, based on the second section of the chapter. So now we will look at, so it is called actually Pure Devotional Service, Change in the Heart. Let me share my screen and we'll take a verse from the chapter and then we will discuss this chapter. Yeah, so this is chapter 3, the Pure Devotional Service, Change in the Heart. So we look at verse number 12. Because we are doing class on Zoom today, so you can just repeat, you can recite with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jnanam yada pratinivritta guno michakram atma prasad utaya traguneshva sangha kaivalya sammata pathas patha bhakti yoga o nirvrato harikatha suratim na kurya o nirvrato harikatha suratim na kurya. Word by word translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please once again repeat where you are. Gnanam, knowledge, yat, that which, up to the limit of, pratinivritta, completely withdrawn, guna urmi, the waves of the material modes, chakram, whirlpool, atma prasada, self-satisfaction, uta, moreover, yatra, where there is, guneshu, in the modes of nature, asangha, no attachment, kaivalya, transcendental, sammat, approved, patha, path, to, but, ath, therefore, bhakti yoga, devotional service, kahu, nirvrata, absorbed in, hari kathasu, in the transcendental topics of the Lord, ratim, attraction, na, shall not, kuryat, do. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment. And being transcendental, it is approved by authorities who could fail to be attracted. Yeah, very nice. We'll discuss further. Please hear the purport. According to Bhagavad Gita 10.9, the characteristics of pure devotees are wonderful. The complete functional activities of a pure devotee are always engaged in the service of the Lord, and thus the pure devotees exchange feelings of ecstasy between themselves and relish transcendental bliss. This transcendental bliss is experienced even in the stage of devotional practice, sadhana avastha. If properly undertaken under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and in the mature stage, the developed transcendental feeling culminates in realization of the particular relationship with the Lord by which a living entity is originally constituted, up to the relationship of conjugal love with the Lord, which is estimated to be the highest transcendental bliss. Thus, Bhakti Yoga, being the only means of God realization, is called Kaivalya. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the Vedic version, Eko Narayano Devaha Paravaranam Param Aste Kaivalya Samgnita. In this connection, and establish that Narayan, the personality of Godhead, is known as Kaivalya, and the means which enables one to approach the Lord is called the Kaivalya Pantha, or the only means of attainment of Godhead. This Kaivalya Pantha begins from Shravana, or hearing those topics that relate to the personality of Godhead, and the natural consequence of hearing such Harikatha is attainment of transcendental knowledge, which causes detachment from all mundane topics for which a devotee has no taste at all. For a devotee, all mundane activities, social and political, become unattractive, and in the mature state, such a devotee becomes uninterested even in his own body. And what to speak of bodily relatives? In such a state of affairs, one is not agitated by the waves of material modes. There are different modes of material nature, and all mundane functions in which a common man is very much interested or in which he takes part become unattractive for the devotee. The state of affairs is described herein as prati nivritta gunobhi, and it is possible by atma prasad, or complete self-satisfaction without any material connection. The first-class devotee of the Lord attains this stage by devotional service, but despite his loftiness for the Lord's satisfaction, he may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into devotional service. Even mundane interest, just to give the neophytes a chance to transform mundane interest into transcendental bliss. Srila Rupa Goswami has described this action of a pure devotee as Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchchate. Even mundane activities dovetailed with service to the Lord are also calculated to be transcendental or approved Kaivalya affairs. Very important line, Prabhuji Mataji. Please read, let me read again. Even mundane activities dovetailed with service to the Lord are also calculated to be transcendental or approved Kaivalya affairs. Srila Bhaktivedanta purports ki jai. Okay. Let's do Mangalacharan and then we will discuss further. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Savadhetam savadhutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namastute Tapt Kanchan Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Bhute Mahadbhir Yaima Puro Vibho Nirmaya Shete Yadamosha Purusha Bhunte Gunansho Dashatmakam Solank Srishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanaagatam Katha Amritam Satat Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marg Panthanam Sarvalok Rishi Dev Janma Prasannam Sarvalok Rishi Deva Janma Prasannam. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, please pray. Please pray for me. Please bless me. May the right words come at the right time. May I am truly able to glorify Srila Guru Maharaj, serve Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, and to all the devotees, all the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So, like I said, so the third chapter, Prabhuji Mataji, it is titled The Change, Pure Devotional Service, The Change in the Heart. Yeah. So, let me share my screen. So we have some slides, we'll look at them. You can see my screen. Okay, so pure devotional service, the change of heart. So now Shukdev Goswami, in the third chapter, he starts speaking and he tells Parikshit Maharaj that evam etad nigaditam, yeah, evam etad nigaditam prishtavan yad bhavan mama. O Parikshit Maharaj, O king, evam, therefore, etad, these two paths I have spoken to you about. Yad bhavan prishtavan aham. What you had questioned me, I have responded to your question and I have described these two paths. And these two paths, he is saying, Nirnam mriyamanana, for the people who are about to die. And I have also spoken to what? Manusheshu manishina. Yeah. So two parts, he's saying, I've spoken to you about two paths. People who are aspiring for impersonal liberation, how through the Ashtanga Yoga process they can achieve the liberation. I've also spoken to you about heavenly planets, people who aspire to go to heavens and enjoy there. But then he says, Shabdasya hi Brahman. They are just flowery words, yeah, going to heavenly planets, because ultimately they have to come back. And then he says, Manusheshu manishina. I have spoken to you what intelligent people decide to do. And by that, what he meant was, because he concluded that yes, there is this path, but for intelligent people, Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma Bhagwan Ishvaro Hari. So that Supreme Lord Bhagavan, yeah, who is Sarvatma, for the intelligent people, he's saying what they do is Shrotavya Kirti Tavyascha. So he concluded both the chapters by saying that they should also follow the path of pure devotional service. So I've spoken to you about those two. So now in this chapter, he starts speaking about, because there is another class of people, and dare I say a lower class of people who are aspiring for some material bhogas, material enjoyments. Yeah? For example, if you want to, like say, if you want to buy a bigger house, so you go and pray and you get some, money or something, by the blessing of any demigods. So there is a class of people who like to worship these demigods, and these demigods, they are considered to be like, a big directors in a company. So for example, consider your own position wherever you are working. You're all human beings working in a company. Yeah, let's say a batch of graduates join a company, and over a period of time, some progress to the highest level, some stays in the middle management, some stays at some level. So how do they work their way up into the chain? Some people please the superiors by performing their duties nicely. Yeah, some just try to please the superiors, and then they get promoted. So in the similar way, Prabhuji Mataji, in the same analogy, if you go and please a particular demigod, you can please them. You can please them, and they can grant you some benediction. They can give you some boon, but it is very clearly stated that Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.20, he says, Kamai tais tair. Yeah, because of the desires, to fulfill their different desires. Kamai tais tair. Yeah, hrita jnana. Yeah, so because you have the desires to get certain, benefits, certain outcomes. So what happens is, because of those desires, hrita jnana, your knowledge is taken away, or your knowledge, real knowledge is, yeah, ajnanena avrita jnana. Like in the 5th chapter, Lord Krishna is saying, Ajnanena avrata jnanam. The ignorance takes over the knowledge, the pure knowledge. And pure knowledge is taken over, and then you are driven by these material desires. And then what they do? Prapadyante anya devata. This is Lord Krishna saying in 7.20, Prapadyante anya devata. So you go and various demigods, prapadya means surrender. You surrender to various demigods. And then what you start doing? Then you start doing tam as per the process, as per the various process to please those particular demigods. I mean, take our own classic example, how our people, in Vrindavan, the residents, they wanted to please Indra every year, so that he can give them the rain. So they used to offer in Bhoga, they used to offer the prayers. And Lord Krishna came, and then he, that whole Govardhan Leela pastime. So similarly, we human beings, so we do that. So Lord Krishna is saying, tam. So as per that, they perform these various activities to please those demigods, right? Prakritya, yeah. So as per their nature, swabhava. So you, as per their nature, as to please them, like some people go and they please, Goddess Durga, so they are offering some bali, etc. So like this, Lord Krishna is saying, people get bewildered by these various desires. So yeah, there are certain class of people who worship the demigods, and Shukdev Goswami, because he is speaking, and once again the question was, purushasya iha mriyamanasya sarvatha. Purushasya iha yat karam mriyamanasya sarvatha. So this is for all the purusha. So he's going to address all of them one by one, all as per their thought process, as per their philosophy. But he concludes in every instance, he concludes that the Bhakti Vasudeva Bhagavati, that the devotional service to the Supreme Lord is topmost. So in that assembly, so he started speaking about that there are various demigods, demigod worshippers. So what do they do? How do they worship? Or what is the reason behind worshipping which demigod? So he will talk about that in first 12 verses. Yeah, worship of different demigods and for fulfillment of their desires. And then he concludes that by saying that the pure devotional service is the best. Yeah, nishreyasya udaya. So he says, if somebody, he says yaje tam iha, right? All these, you are etavan eva yaje tam iha. So all these, by worshipping all these demigods, right? People who are worshipping nishreyasayo udaya. So their greatest fortune arises. उनका भाग्योदय हो जाता है, उनका भाग्य उदय होता है, उनका great fortune, the most favorable thing happens for them. And what is that most favorable thing? He says Bhagavati achalo bhavo, unto the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, उनका जब अचल भाव हो जाता है, undeterred faith, staunch faith to the Supreme Lord Hari, when they have that. And how they had that? Yad Bhagavat Sangata, in the association of devotees, if they have that, that is the greatest fortune. Unke bhagyon ka uday ho jata hai. Yeah, that is the Sankirtan movement. Okay, and then in the second section, what happens is when Shukdev Goswami concludes that, then Shaunakadi Rishi thinks maybe that's it. Maybe Sud Goswami has spoken whatever was spoken, but they were very keen to hear more from Sud Goswami. So Shaunakadi Rishi then inspires the speaker to speak, right? So normally when we are assembling, so this is the mood. Sometimes we get together and the speaker has spoken and then we just say, oh, that's about it. But here the mood is because the Vakta and the Shrota, the speaker and the hearer, both of them, so it is called a Samvad. Right? It's question and answer. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prashanottare Bhagavat. Yeah, Kariyache. He by the Prashan and Uttar, by the question and answers, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it reveals the truth. Yeah, and Lokana lage chamatkar. For the general people, it looks like chamatkar. They think, oh, what a great wonder. But it is that question and answer. So Shaunakadi Rishi, all the Rishi, 80,000 Rishis who are assembled there, led by Shaunak Rishi. So they speak and then they further encourage, inspire Sud Goswami to speak further. That is in the second section. And then Shaunak Rishi, first they glorifies Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami. Then they also criticize those who do not hear Hari Katha. And then they also do a limb by limb description. So remember, Sud Goswami is speaking, but Shaunakadi Rishi, they're all sitting there and they're also advanced themselves, that they're also describing the limb by limb description of the persons who don't want to hear Hari Katha. Yeah. So now, as I said, demigod worship, it is the path chosen by less intelligent men, lower class of people, because these are the short-term benefits. Yeah, because as in Ramayana also, in Uttarkand, Lord Ram is speaking to Lord Ram. One day he invited all the residents of Ayodhya, even Vasisth Rishi was there, and then he invited to them and he started speaking to them about the glories of the devotional service. And then he says, Swargahu su'alp anta dukhdai. Swargahu su'alp anta dukha. He says even attaining the heavenly planets is for the short duration, and in the end dukhdai, in the end it also causes the misery. Yeah. So various demigod worship, like I was saying, you have different demigods we want to serve. Some people want some money, some people want rain, so they pray to Indra and various demigods. And for if you want child, if you want good house, good wife, etc., all of these, right? But our Srila Prabhupada says that these are the various departmental heads appointed under the service. So they're all servants of Krishna. They can give you some material benefits based on their limitation, but none of them can give you the spiritual benefits. But still, Like I said, in that assembly, there are people who support demigod worship. So Shukdev Goswami speaks about that. Now let's look at, so now Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj that how you serve various demigods and what do you get. So absorption in impersonal Brahma Jyoti. So if you want to merge into the looking for impersonal liberation, so he says you worship Brahmaji, right? If you want bodily relations, then you worship Indra. If you want good progeny, then you worship Prajapati Daksh. Yeah, Daksh had his daughters, and the daughters got married to all the Prajapatis, and then they had such you can say all the lineage, so many nice, I mean all the Mother Diti is Daksha's daughter, and Mother Aditi is Daksha's daughter. So all the demigods, demons, etc. So they've all come from Daksha's daughter. So if you want good progeny, you can worship Daksha. If you want good fortune, Mother Durga. So she is the Durga, she is the protector. But you know about that analogy that if you go and please the superintendent of the jail, then superintendent, if you bribe him, he will be happy to keep you in the jail. Why would he want you to leave the jail? He's getting so many gifts, so many presents, right? So he will keep providing you your needs within the jail, and that way you get conditioned. So similarly, if you want good fortune, people go and worship Durga Devi. If you want power, then you worship Agni, Agni Devta. You want money, you worship Vasus. Bhishma Pitama was one of the 8 Vasus. So they are actually attendants of Indra. So you can worship them if you want that. If you want to be a great hero, Rudra, who is an expansion of Lord Shiva in this material world. If you want large stocks of grains, then you go and worship Aditi. Aditi, who is the mother of Daityas. They are called Adityas. And Adityas, they are the heavenly planets. If you want to go to heavenly planets, then you go and worship Adityas. But remember, Lord Krishna once again says in Bhagavad Gita, Tetam bhuktva sarva lokam vishalam shine punya martya lokam vishanti. Yeah? Tetam, you go to heavenly planets, but there also, when your credits expire and when you have enjoyed the opulence in the heavenly planets, then what happens? Swarga Tetam bhuktva, after enjoying the opulence in the heavenly planets, shine punya, when your punyas, when your pieties, जब आपकी piety expire हो जाती है, then you martya lokam vishanti, then you again fall into the mrityu lok. Yeah? And then what happens? Evam trayi dharmam anuprapanna kam kama gatagatam kam kama labhante. And then you again get into this cycle of trayi dharma, right? Or you again get entangled into these 3 modes of nature, and you just get entangled, and then you are going, coming, you changing various bodies, right? Again, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says that urdhav gacchanti sattvastha. If you are stated, if you are in the mode of goodness, then you go to the upper planets. Urdhav gacchanti sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa. If you are in the mode of passion, then you stay in the pretty much on the earthly planets. And then jaganya guna vrittistha adho gacchanti tamsa. Agar aapke jaganya gun hai, right? Mode of ignorance, you are too much materialistic, demoniac nature, you're trying to punish others, you're trying to take revenge, etc., right? Those kind of mentality, then you are thrown into the lower planetary systems. Yeah. And when the pralaya happens, when Brahmaji goes to sleep, then all the planetary systems up to heaven, right? Up to heaven, they all get burnt. Yeah. There is fire and there is torrential rain for thousands of years. When Bhagwan Anant, from his mouth, the fire is coming and all the planetary systems are burning. Then after so much fire, then there is strong winds, very strong winds, and then torrential rains, just rain pouring everywhere. So just imagine, we had 2 weeks of rain. Everybody was so much, and they were saying, "Ye pani kab rukega? When will this stop?" So that is the gati. That's what happens, Prabhuji Mataji, even if somebody is trying to go to the heavenly planets. Then if you want worldly kingdom, then you worship Vishwadeva. Popularity among general mass, sadhya, जो सिद्ध गण है, who have various siddhis, anima, laghima, you can be small, you can be big. Sometimes we say at our level, our siddhis are what? Oh, somebody has got nice house, big house. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So Shukdev ji is telling Parishit Maharaj, if you want to be popular among general mass, so you can worship Sadhya. If you want long span of life, yeah, then Ashwini Kumaras, yeah, you can worship them. And then strongly built body, then you worship Mother Earth. Right? If you want stability in your post, wherever you are, you want to stay put, then you worship Earth and horizon. Yeah. Beauty, Gandharvas. Yeah. If you want to be, Gandharvas also sing very nicely, by the way. If you want good wife, then you worship Apsaras and Urvashi. Yeah. You can go to any Pandit and he can give you mantra for that also. And by the way, don't take it wrong. This is all from the Vedas. There is nothing wrong in that, right? Because one thing that we should understand is Prabhuji Mataji, they are all appointed servants of the Supreme Lord. They are doing their jobs, right? So we should be very respectful to them. Very often we make mistake. Because we have read, we haven't understood, mind you, because we have read higher philosophy, due to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas in the parampara, we start treating these demigods. We say, oh, demigod worship. Or if somebody we says, oh, they are, reading Vedas. Remember I spoke last time. This is called Shruti Shastra Ninda. Shruti Shastra Ninda. This is an offense, and normally this is committed by so-called devotees. Yeah, so we should be very respectful to these people, but at the same time we should understand where are we getting, right? They are given this position because there are people who wants this. There are people who wants this desire. Maybe some people, after getting their desires fulfilled to the point, then they might start approaching the Supreme Lord. So there is nothing wrong in that as such, but that is why it is called less intelligent men. Because somehow or other, the whole objective is to engage them into the service of the Supreme Lord, right? You are serving the servant of the Lord to get something, yes, but this is for your own self. So it's at some point, if that can be changed to serve the Supreme Lord, yes, you want to get a good wife, yes, you want to become beautiful, yes, you want you want good fortune, but you get it and then you start using in the service of the Supreme Lord, then that is the best outcome. Yeah, that is why Mahaprabhu says that Atmendriya Priti Ichha Tare Boli Kam, Krishnendriya Priti Vancha Dhare Premna. Yeah, Atmendriya Priti, अपनी इंद्रियों को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए, to fulfill for your sense gratification, to satisfy your own senses, Atmendriya Priti Vancha. अपनी इंद्रियों को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए जो भी आप करते हैं, तारे बोली काम, उसको काम कहा जाता है. That is called काम, desire. काम ऐशा, क्रोध ऐशा. So this is not good, not concerned. But Krishnendriya Priti Ichha. But if the same thing is dovetailed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Tare Boli Kam, Dhare Prem Naam. So that is called Prem. Yeah. So let's be mindful that these demigods, they are appointed. Yeah, they're departmental heads. They have performed some piety. If you are very good in doing, let's say, a management today, and you want to grow in that position, and at some point you want to grow to the level, you could also become Indra in your next life. And we all have been Indra. We all have gone through this cycle many times, all of us. Yeah? Through many lifetimes, we have been in these positions. Yeah? If you want good bank balance, so Varun, you can perform, you can please Lord Varun. You want vast learning, you can worship Lord Shiva. You want good marital relationship, you worship Mother Uma, Parvati. In North India, we have these, young girls. They are going and they are performing that, vrat on Mondays. to please Lord Shiva, so that they can get a good husband. So like this, I mean, these practices are there, but these are considered for less intelligent men, and the idea is to slowly progress upwards. If you want spiritual advancement in knowledge, then Lord Vishnu and his devotees. Protection of heredity, then there are various demigods, and once again, any Karmakandi Pandit can tell you there are processes described in the Vedas. But so Vedas also, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 2.4 to 2.43. So Lord Krishna is saying, Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschita. So he says the language of the Vedas is very flowery, avipaschita, whose intelligence is not developed. Pravadanti. So they speak these flowery languages of the Vedas. And then what they do is they say nanyad asti iti, there is nothing else exists other than this. And then through the Vedas, what they are trying to do is swargapara, janma karma labha, bhog aishwarya. So from the Vedas, they take out those flowery words, and by using that, so they want swargapara, they want to go to the heavenly planets. Janma karma labh, so they want to get various benefits. Bhog aishwarya, they want these bhogs, they want these opulence. Kriya vishesh bahulam, they are performing these pompous ceremonies, big yagnas, but for what purpose? Because all the yagnas, Lord Krishna once again says in Bhagavad Gita 9.25, he's saying that aham hi sarva yagna nam bhokta cha prabhu revacha. I am the bhokta, I am the prabhu of all the sacrifice, of all the yagnas. If you don't know that, if you don't know this basic thing, then Lord Krishna says tattve na chastavanti te. If you don't know that, then they don't understand the tat and they fall down. So Supreme Lord is the master, and he's the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. But once again, some people study those specific sections of the Vedas, and they pick up that for and they worship particular demigod to get the bhog and aishwaryas. And then they do that. But then Lord Krishna warns Arjun in 2.44. He says, bhog aishwarya prasaktanam. Who are prasakt, who are too attached to this bhog and aishwaryas. So he says, their intelligence samadhauna vidhiyate. Their intelligence is not focus. Vyavsayatmika buddhir samadhauna vidhiyate. Vyavsayatmika means focus. So their intelligence is not focus. Rather, it is bahu shakhahi anantascha. Because their intelligence is split into various directions. For this benefit, they go into this demigod. For this benefit, they are going to this demigod. So like this, they are going. If you want victory over an enemy, then you can worship the demons. There you go. Because for a devotee, there is no concept of victory or loss. The only concept is Krishnarthe akhil chesta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Krishnarthe akil chesta. All the chesta, unki jitne bhi endeavors hote hain, is for Krishna, to please the Supreme Lord. And if you want sense gratification, then you can worship moon god. So like this, Prabhuji Mataji, from the Vedas, from the scriptures, you can look at, and there are specific sections, right? It is part of that, but the conclusion, they haven't read the conclusions. It is like you just read what you want. Right? For example, very often we so-called devotees, we often quote, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.45, Lord Krishna is saying that Traiguniya Vishya Veda Nistraiguniya Bhavarjuna. If somebody is talking to you about Vedas, you say, oh, Vedas, you're studying Vedas. Lord Krishna says Nistraiguniya Bhavarjuna. But what does Krishna says in the other line? Right? So Traiguniya Vishya Veda. Yes, the Vedas, there are mention of three gunas, or because people who are entangled in these three gunas. So Krishna is saying, rise above the three gunas. But how do you do that? Lord Krishna says in the next line, Nirdvando. Nitya Sattvastho, right? Rise above the duality. That's what Lord is saying in the next. Nirdvandasto, dvand, rise above the duality. Always be situated in the sattvic mode. Always be truthful. For example, nirdvando nitya sattvasto, yeah, atmavan, yeah, and then you become atmavan, like you believe in the adhyatmic, you become atmara, atma prasada, like in today's verse. Yeah, Shukdev Goswami says that atma prasada ut yatra, yeah, guneshva asanga, right? By performing devotional service, atma prasada, your atma pleases, and in that pleased state, what happens is guneshva asanga, you become detached from the gunas. Yeah, so that's how we do it. So these are the various demigods, Prabhuji Mataji. Now, after speaking about the various demigods, now Shukdev Goswami, when he says that, so at the end of the 9th verse, he says that you worship this demigod for this. I mean, from 2 to 9, he's speaking about the various demigods, and then he says that if you want to be desireless, akama purusham param. Yeah. In the 9th verse, last line, he's saying akama. If you want to be desireless, if you don't, desireless doesn't mean that being like a stone. Does desireless means rising above all these material desires? So he's saying, if you want to rise above all these material desires, then Parikshit Maharaj, you should worship Purusham Param. Yeah. Remember, it is said once again, Mahaprabhu says, Ami bhaje vishyamange ei bada murkha. Yeah. Amrit chhadi vishyamange ei bada murkha. Ami bhaje vishyamange ei bada murkha. Ami bhaje vishyamange. Yeah. So he is a murkh. ये एक fool है. He wants Vishay Bhog, right? Vishay Bhog as in sense gratification, which has come from the word vish. Vish means poison. So Mahaprabhu says, Mujhko bhaj raha hai. He is worshipping me, but he wants the Vishay Bhog. So if you go to Krishna and ask for any sense gratification, or if you ask for any Vishay Bhog, what does Lord Krishna do? So Mahaprabhu reveals that. He says, Ami bhaje vishya mange ei bada murkha. Ami vigna ei murkhe vishya kene diba swacharna amrita diye vishya bholaiba. Yes? So he says, मुझको भज रहा है और क्या मांग रहा है? विषय भोग मांग रहा है. He wants विषय भोग. He wants sense gratification by worshiping. But he is a murkh. But he says, I am intelligent. Ami vigna ei murkhe vishya kene diba. I'm intelligent to this fool. I'm not giving Vishay Bhog. I'm not going to fulfill his desires for sense gratification. In Bhagavatam, we will study, I think it's in the 8th canto, very nicely, a question was asked that the devotees of Lord Krishna are poor, and whereas the devotees of Lord Shiva, they are rich. And that's where Lord Krishna then says, he says, Yesham anugriha yesham aham grihnami harishe tad dhanam shanai. For them or to them whom I become merciful, what I do, मैं उनके धन को धीरे धीरे हर लेता हूं. I take away all their opulence. If I'm merciful to anyone, this is Lord Krishna saying, I take away all their opulence. And what happens? And then I also take away their friends, all the so-called relatives. I take away everything from them. And when everything is taken away, then they look around, will somebody come and help me? And when nobody comes to help them, then they start looking at me. Right? So Prabhuji Mataji, if there is any problem, right, please don't be worried. If there is any problem in the material life, please don't be worried. If there is any problem in the devotional life also, please don't be concerned. Right? Then you worship Bhakti Vigna Vinashak Narsimha Dev. Bhakti Vigna Vinashak Narsimha Dev Bhagwan ki jai. भक्ति मार्ग में जो भी विघ्न आते हैं, नरसिंह भगवान उनको खत्म कर देते हैं. जैसे प्रहलाद महाराज को आ रहे थे तो भगवान ने उनको खत्म कर दिया. Yes. So Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, akama purusham param. If you want to be akama, if you don't want to have any material desires, you have material desires, but you are concerned about yourself. Why do I have these desires? One Prabhu calls me, he says, Prabhu, sometimes I'm self-analyzing. And he was very truthful. He said, Prabhu, sometimes I get envious of somebody at work whom don't I even know. Somebody you don't know, you look at him, you think, you see him happy, and he says, Prabhu, I start feeling envy. Why is he happy? Why is he growing? Why is he earning more than me? He says, I don't know them at all. What to speak of somebody that you know? He says, to that extent, he is cursing himself. He is worried about himself. Yeah. But the only solution for that is, Prabhuji Mataji, Purusham Param. We start worshipping Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So after speaking this, now Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, and then he concludes. He says, then this is the famous verse you all must have heard. He says, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udarthi. Yeah, tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. So he says, now, okay, Akama, Parikshit Maharaj, for people who don't have any desire, Akama, sarva kama va. If you have all the desires, or if you have moksha kama, because he's already spoken in the first and second chapter about the impersonal liberation, merging into the effulgence. So he's spoken about that through the Ashtanga Yoga, right? So he says, akama, if you don't have any desires, if you have all the desires, sarva kama va, and if you want liberation, then what does he say? He says, then still, tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param, right? Tivra bhakti yogena. Tivra as in with strong attention, with strong feeling of dependence, right? One should worship Supreme Lord. So this is again relates to mriyamanasya, purushasya iha, yeah, yat kara mriyamanasya sarvatha. So that includes all the various people who have various desires. So he has spoken about that. He's saying if they want that. And then he says, after worshipping, yeah, then he says, etavan eva yajatam iha. Etavan as in conclusion. Etavan eva. Certainly, who by worshipping all of these, yajatam, worshipping demigods, various demigods, liberation, etc. Yeah, or in this particular context, yajatam iha. All the we looked at about 26, but there are many others, servants of the servants, etc. Whoever, somebody supporting, helping demigod. If you want something else, or there's a combination of you serve him, you pray for him, you do this, and you get that. So he concludes. He says, Yajatam iha etaman eva yajatam iha nishreyas udaya. Aapka bhagya uday ho jata hai. Kab your great fortune arises, uday. When? Then Bhagavati Achalo Bhavo, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, Achal, undeterred, Bhav, that prema, that attraction to the Supreme Lord, when that arises, and how that arises, he says, Yad Bhagavata Sangata, in the association of devotees, O Parikshit Maharaj, when that Bhav arises, then that is the greatest boon. So this is the second point. So the first point I have spoken about, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajata purusham param. So anyone can worship Lord Krishna, and all your desires will be fulfilled. If you don't have desire, fine. If you have desire, or if you want liberation, still worship Lord Shri Krishna. And this is not Shukdev Goswami's conclusion. He already referred that this is what Bhagavan Brahmaji, yeah, Kartasena Trin Anvikshaya Manishya. He had also concluded that. And then he says, devotee association alone gives bhakti. Yeah, Bhagavat Sangata. In the association of devotees, that is your greatest fortune, Sankirtan movement. So he concludes that. And then today's verse, even Jnanis take to bhakti, then why not demigod worshippers? Yes. So if you remember today's verse, so that's what you can look at on your phones or whatever instruments you have. So that's what we're saying in this verse, that Jnanam, yeah, Jnanam yada prati nivritta gunormi chakram. Gunormi chakram. Urmi means waves in the ocean. And chakram is whirlpool. In Hindi it is called Jwara Bhata. Imagine yourself, you are thrown into the waves, in the water, and which is, there are whirlpools of the water, Jawar Bhat. It is, sometimes they say there is a hole into the ocean or somewhere, and the water is swirling around, and the people who get sucked into that Jawar Bhata, then they get sucked into that, and then they just vanish. So this is how our situation is described, Prabhuji Mataji, that Gunormi Chakram Jnanam Yat. So sometimes through this knowledge or through the Gyan, right? People, people take to bhakti. So through the knowledge, they understand what is this. All of this, I'm stuck into this Gunormi Chakram, into the whirlpools. What is happening? And then they get Atma Prasada, right? They get pleased, right? And they get pleased. Then what happens? Guneshva Asanga. So then they detach themselves from these gunas, from the material modes that they are always, right? Muhu Ardita Atmana. In the first, I think in the first canto, 5th chapter, when Naraji tells Vyasdevji, just go and describe the glories of the Supreme God for the people, because they are Muhu Ardita Atmanam. Ardit means they are being crushed. They are being crushed by these material modes again and again. Like you can imagine yourself. We are literally getting crushed. You say somebody getting under the bus. So we are getting under these modes. Every now and then, Prabhuji Mataji, you are in a particular mode, you get upset, you get angry, right? And I'm sure you all have experienced that. So it is just these various modes of nature. But then Shukdev Goswami is saying that these people, who through that knowledge, through that understanding, right? Because he spoke about the Gyan yogis in the first and the second chapter. So he says, if they also take to bhakti, right? And then he says that this is not just my, he says that kevalya sammat. Kevalya is people who are kevalya, or kevalya is only, which is the ultimate goal, is the Supreme Lord. So people who have achieved that kevalya state, sammat as in they have also proved that, right? Kevalya sammat, yeah, pathastvat bhakti yoga, right? If they have concluded through this process of knowledge that the bhakti yoga to the Supreme Lord is the only thing, and that's when he says, ko nirvrito hari katha suratim na kuryat, right? Who is that person who is trying to liberate nirvrito, or who is absorbed into the devotional service, or who is trying to get absorbed into that marg? Then why will they not take up the devotional service? So here specifically saying, when they can take devotional service, then demigod worshippers, they should automatically take the devotional service, because there are so many people around us who still keep serving these demigods, praying to various devatas. Yeah, Krishna once again says in Bhagavad Gita, Yepi anne devata bhakta rajyajante shraddhaya anvita tepi mam eva kaunteya yajante avidhi purvakam. So Krishna is saying, oh Arjun, ये भी अन्य देवता भक्ता, जो अन्य देवताओं की पूजा कर रहे हैं, कैसे? श्रद्धाया अन्विता, with full faith, who are worshipping these demigods, but te api mam eva kante. Oh Kunti Putra, they are actually worshipping me only, even though they are worshipping me avidhi purvakam. They are coming to me, but through the wrong process. It is like there is a very nice driveway to Radha Gopinath, but you don't want to go via the driveway. From here, let's say from Glenfield, you want to go to Wollongong. From Wollongong, you want to go to somewhere down south. From south, you want to go to somewhere up north. From there, you want to go to Varunga. From Varunga, you want to go to North Sydney Temple. Whereas there is a freeway from here which goes to Radha Gopinath. So that is the simple process. Yeah. So that's what Shukdev Goswami is saying. Even they take to the bhakti, then why not the demigod worshippers? Now, after Shukdev Goswami spoke about this, then Shaunakadi Rishi thought that maybe he has given the conclusion. But they wanted to hear more. They wanted to hear more about what was discussed between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So now they are motivating, now they are motivating Sut Goswami to please speak more. And to motivate him, so they start glorifying Parikshit Maharaj. So first they glorify Parikshit Maharaj, and they say that Parikshit Maharaj, he was a great devotee of the Lord from the childhood. And they were thinking of what childhood pastime of Parikshit Maharaj to recall. And they, Shaunaka Rishi, then they says that when Parikshit Maharaj was a child, he used to play with the dolls. And when he was playing with the dolls, he would enact various Lord Krishna's pastime with his dolls. So to that extent, Parikshit Maharaj was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. And then they also then glorify Shukdev Goswami. And they say Parikshit Maharaj was a great devotee, whereas Shukdev Goswami was also such an exalted devotee of the Supreme Lord. Yeah, so he must have, because he heard Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from his father, and they had heard about Shukdev Goswami's glories. Yeah, so Shaunakadi Rishi. So they are asking, Kim Anyat Prishthavan? Yeah, Kim Anyat Prishthavan? Uske alawa Parikshit Maharaj ne kya pucha? What else did Parikshit Maharaj ask from Shukdev Goswami? And he says when both of them met, because both of them were great devotees in that assembly, in that assembly, they must have discussed Hari Katha. So they're saying Katha Hari Katha Udarko. Katha Hari Katha Udarko. The Katha, the topic that was discussed between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami must have given rise to the Hari Katha, right? So normally we are discussing topics, sometimes we're discussing mundane topics. It doesn't lead to Hari Katha. But they are very clearly saying Katha, Katho Udarka. Yeah, Dhruvam, definitely. Yeah, Dhruvam Sadasi, in that assembly, Sadasi as in that assembly, Dhruvam is certainly, when they spoke, so they must have discussed about Hari Katha. Please tell us more and more. And now they are, like I said, they're glorifying, they're inspiring Sut Goswami, and they're asking him about more and more. And now they start talking among themselves. Now think of it as we are sitting in assembly and we have a speaker sitting there. We want to, let's say our Guru Maharaj is there. So we're talking among ourselves and we say, Guru Maharaj, what is the point of wasting the time? And then sometimes you take an example, think of a real life situation, right? Sometimes we say, oh, those people, they are doing like this, as in not in the criticism, but you bring the point to discussing the Hari Katha. Oh, Maharaj, there are so many distractions these days. How do we bring our mind? So like this, similarly, Shaunakadi Rishi, they are inspiring Sut Goswami to please speak more and more. And they got so inspired. And now they started speaking, again, another famous word. So famous word. So they say, Ayur Harati Vaipum Sam Udyan Astanchayan so Tasyarite Yat Shanonita Uttam Shloka Vartaya. So now they're saying that Ayur Harati Vaipum Sam. They're telling Sut Goswami that the age of those people are taken away, Harati, is stolen away by the rising and setting of the sun. Yeah, what are those people? Or accept those people. Tasya rite yat shano nit. Shano means even one moment. Except those people whose every moment is involved in or engaged in discussing the Krishna Katha. Uttam Shloka Vartaya. Uttam Shlok, so Supreme Lord is called Uttam Shlok. For him, we use chants, poetry, the best of the words to describe that Supreme Lord. We converse about that Supreme Lord. So they're saying that, my dear Lord, once again, they are keeping the context, right? They're saying, Kim Anyat Prishtavan, what else did he ask? In that assembly, Parikshit Maharaj was a great devotee. Shukdev Goswami was also a great devotee. So they must have discussed the Hari Katha, and that, oh Sukh Goswami, that their age is stolen away. People who don't speak Krishna Katha, their age is stolen away by setting and rising of the sun. Yeah, Tasyarite Yat Shanonite Uttam Shloka Vartaya. And then they start comparison between humans and non-humans. So we will look at that. And then they also speak about the animalistic people. Yeah, so they are comparing between humans and non-humans. Yeah, so after saying this, that Ayur Harat Vaipum Sam, that their age is stolen away. Now the point comes that what is the point of leading such a big life? Some people say that the lifespan is very short. And then they say, Tarvah Kimna Jivanti. Yeah, Tarva as in trees. Don't trees live such a long life? Yeah, tarvah kimna jivanti. And then if they are living long life, then some people talk about they are like, the breathings. Yeah. So he says that you must have seen we don't see that, but in the village they used to have a tool, where it's the trade is called lohar. I don't know what is the real meaning for that. What is the translation for that in English? But they have a tool by which they are melting the iron, and they are melting the iron, and then it says bhastra kinna shanti ut. So that tool is called bhastra. So as that as the how we have goldsmith, this is ironsmith, maybe that trade. So that ironsmith, that person, he has that tool, and it just breathes in, breathe out, breathe in, and with that air the fire is lit stronger and stronger, and in that strong fire the iron is melting. So the people who are breathing so heavily, or whatever, so they are comparing them. So they are saying tarvah kim jivanti bhastra kim swasanti ut. That tool of that ironsmith, does it not breathe, right? So our breathing is, if somebody says, oh, my chest is very clear, my lungs are nice and healthy, and I'm breathing so happily. No. So their breathing, they are saying, is compared to that tool which is just melting the iron. And so our breathing is just, we are eating the food and we are producing the stool. That's it. So that is useless, right? So they're comparing that to the non-humans. We are not humans. Yeah. And then he says, kim khadanti, kim khadanti, kim medanti. Yeah, yeah. Kim as in people, or as in they are saying pashu, the animals who are in the village, are they not eating? They are also eating, right? Medanti, are they not mating? They are also mating, right? So people living, we are human beings, but being a human beings, if we are not involved in the Hari Katha, discussion of Hari Katha, so Shaunakadi Rishi, they are speaking to Sut Goswami, and they're saying that trees also live long life. These ironsmiths tool also breathe nice lungs, if somebody is proud about, if somebody about eating opulent food. So they say that the Pashvo Pare, yeah, Gramya Pashvo Pare, these animals in the village, right? You have these animals for milking, etc. You offer them nice food to their liking, right? So they are so they are considered non-humans, those people who are not worshipping Supreme Lord, who are proud of their opulences. And Medanti, yeah, people who think that I've got nice family connections, I've got children, this and that. So they say even those animals, they also mate. So they say their life is useless. And then they go to the next level. They say they do that. Then he says, Shwa. Shwa is in dogs. Yeah. People who are like dog mentality. Yeah. Shwa vidvaraha. Yeah. Stool eating pigs. Right. And then he says, Ostra, as in camel. Kharai, as in donkey. Yeah. So they says these people are compared to them. Yeah. And then samstuta purusha pashu. So he says these four classes of people, so they're calling them dog mentality. Yeah. Dog is what? For a bone. Just to give them a bone, the dog is prepared to do anything for his master. So these human beings who are so-called rich and opulent forget that piece of bone, who are prepared to do anything in this material world. They are compared to the dogs. Yeah? And then they're saying vidvara, who's the stool eating pigs, people who don't discriminate in what they are eating. Yeah? People are eating meat, right? A human body is not meant for eating meat. They just eat about anything and everything. When somebody was saying some people think their stomach is like dustbin. In dustbin you throw anything, right? So they are compared to the stool eating pigs who don't discriminate in eating or in mating with anyone, right? So their life is just limited to that. Then the third category is ostra. Ostra is in camel. Yeah, camel. Camel likes to eat cactus. Yeah, and camel, when he's eating cactus, the process is he's eating the cactus, and inside his mouth it starts bleeding. And when he's bleeding, he's tasting his own blood. When he's tasting his own blood, he thinks, oh, this is very tasty. And he keeps eating the cactus again and again. So he likes cactus, but essentially what is happening? He's drinking his own blood, or chewing his own blood, or whatever. Yeah. So those people, some of those people, they are considered like this. Similarly, when let's say, human body, it produces semen, it is produced from the blood, so their own blood is being wasted. Okay? So they are literally comparing these kind of people. Kharai, as in donkey. Donkey, what does donkey do? Gadha. Literally what we say, gadha. Right? Gadha to gadha hi rahega. Right? So these people are, this class of men who thinks they are the best of the people, best in the world. Then Shaunakadi Rishi is saying, Samsutah Purusha Pashu. People who are praising these kind of people in the society, they are the pashu, they are the animals. They are these category 4, and people who praise them, they are also equivalent to pashu. They themselves are animals. Yeah. So to this extent, they are, they're saying that these people who are they? They're saying Karana Patho, so these people are who? In their ears, who haven't heard Jatu Nam Gatagrajah. In their ears, who haven't heard the names and glories of the Supreme Lord. So these people are compared to that. So they are humans, even though they are humans, but they are actually non-humans. They are considered to be animals. And these animals have the people who praise them. You must have heard that very nice. Sometime, once there was a camel who was walking, and there was a donkey coming from the front, right? So camel, when he saw donkey, he started saying, Aho Geetam, Aho Geetam. And the donkey looked at camel. He says, Aho Rupam, Aho Rupam. Aho Rupam as in so beautiful. So donkey is telling camel, oh, you are so beautiful, you are so good looking. And the camel is telling donkey, Aho Geetam, Aho Geetam. You sing so nicely, my dear donkey. So this is the kind of people, they are class of people who have never heard Hari Katha. Yet. So they criticize, those people. And then further, Prabhuji Mataji, people who are of animalistic nature, who are not keen to hear Hari Katha, now they do limb by limb description of these animalistic people. Sorry, I don't have time with me, but I will wrap it up in about 10 minutes. Please bear with me. So the people who don't like to hear Hari Katha, who like to hear all the gossips, so their ear holes are compared to the holes of snakes, if they're not listening to the prowess and marvelous acts of the Lord. Why it is called holes of snakes? If there is a snake, is there a hole in the ground of the snake? It is only for the snake. If you dig a hole for planting a plant or anything, then it is any use. But that hole is of no use, because in those holes, they are for the snake. So snake-like mentality is entering into those holes. So their ear holes, who don't hear Hari Katha, they are the holes of the snakes. The tongue, so their tongue is considered to be tongue of a frog, if you're not chanting the loudly and worthy songs about the Lord. Why tongue of a frog? When a frog makes a sound, what happens? A frog makes a sound and it invites a snake. Yeah, snake is just waiting to grab him. But a frog thinks I'm singing, and he's calling she frog for mating. As he makes sound, snake comes, boom, and he goes into the. So those people who are not singing the glories of the Lord, their tongues are compared to the tongue of the frog. Upper body though crowned with a silk turban. So upper body, if you don't go and bow down in front of the Supreme Lord, if you don't use that, even though you could be wearing the nice of the ornaments in the body, but they become a heavy burden on you, because you're not bowing down in front of the Supreme Lord. The hands, in the hands you could be wearing so many bangles, so many etc., but they are the hands of a dead man if not engaging them in the service of Hari. Yeah. Once again, Shastra, it says, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japas Tapa. Yeah. Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokranjanam. Yeah. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, जिनके पास भगवान की भक्ति नहीं है, those who don't perform the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, unki jati, if you say I'm born in a very big lineage, yeah, no good. Jati. Japa, if you are doing jap, if you're doing chanting, but you don't have the devotional service, then your jap is useless. Jati, Shastra. If you studied so many scriptures, but if it doesn't lead to if it doesn't generate the devotional service, Bhakti Yogo Bhagavati, if you don't have that, then it is useless. So Jati, Shastra, Japa, Tapa, all the austerity, right? So all the austerity, fasting, etc. that you are performing. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japas Tapa, right? It is considered to be apranasya dehasya mandanam. A pran, it is considered to be a dead body. It is like decorating a dead body. You are performing all these 4 activities, but you are essentially decorating a dead body or your own dead body, because you don't have devotional service of the Supreme Lord. And you're decorating this dead body for what? Lok Ranjanam, to please the general population, to make a fool of yourself. You are decorating yourself, right, with all these things. Show off. Yeah, it is said Jap Mala Chapa Tilak Sarene Eko Kam. Yeah, holding a Jap Mala, you got Tilak, but what are you doing? The devotion is not there. So even the hands, you have glittering bangles, but these are the hands of dead men if they are not engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. The eyes are considered to be the eyes on the plumes of the peacock. You know, a peacock feather, it looks like an eye. So it is considered those eyes, right? And compared to the peacock, because peacock eats snakes, you know. So those eyes, which are dummy eyes, so even though you say you can see, but you cannot see, right? You just a symbolic. You are not looking at the symbolic representation of the personality of God. The legs are considered to be the tree trunks, because you are not moving to the holy places. Like trees, you are just stationed at one place. You could be traveling in the plains, you could be a world tour travel, etc., etc. You could be going to Europe holiday, this holiday, that holiday. But if you are not going to the holy places, Prabhuji Mataji, then these are tree trunks. Yeah. And the person, that person is certainly a dead body. Yeah. Jivan Shavo. He says, even though still living, but you are dead. Why? If you haven't received the dust of the feet of a pure devotee on his head. Yeah. If you can't do that, at least, you know, we request everyone to use tilak, because this is Gopi Chandan, right? The gopis have walked into Vrindavan. Our Supreme Lord Krishna walked into Vrindavan. So जिस भूमि को भगवान ने टच किया है, भगवान की चरण धूली है, उसको तो कम से कम अपने माथे पे लगा सकते हैं. So we should decorate our body with the Gopi Chandan. Put the tilak, doesn't matter whether you can put it nicely or not. Every day, Prabhuji Mataji, after the bath, we should decorate our body with the Gopi Chandan. And we put this tilak at 12 places on the body. If you don't have that, please message me. I can send you the mantra for each tilak, and also the places. It is all as per the Shastra. So we should do that. At least we can get that dust on our forehead. Yeah. And then if you haven't experienced the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord, yeah, wherever you are at your home, while offering bhoga to the Supreme Lord, offer with tulsi. Also put a tulsi leaf onto the feet of the Supreme Lord in the morning, and when you put in the Supreme Lord, when they go to bed in the evening, take that tulsi leaves and then share among your family members and honor that. Yeah, you can experience the aroma. Also, you can honor it as a prasad, yeah? Charanamrit. And then finally, the tongue of the frog. I've repeated it if you're not chanting loudly the worthy songs about the Lord. But yes, so this is how Shaunak Rishi, when they spoke to Sut Goswami, so they're saying limb by limb description of animalistic person. So after describing all this, then they say to Sut Goswami, "Oh Sut Goswami, please tell us what was discussed between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami. Kim Anyat Prishthavan." What other things were asked by actually I just put this slide here, but I will just quickly touch upon Prabhuji Mataji. We are talking about the pure devotional service. So we are studying what was discussed between Sud Goswami, Shaunak Rishi, Parikshit Maharaj, and Shukdev Goswami. So there is something for us here also. So these on the left hand side, the 9 stages of Bhakti Yoga, we all can judge where we are. and there are the processes of devotional service, because the whole point of these studies is to improve ourselves, right? Is to apply, is to practice in our own lives, right? So our stages of bhakti, this is from this is Srila Rupa Goswami has written in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So he's saying, so you all know the first step is the faith, Shraddha. So you all have Shraddha because that is why you are attending this session, right? Sadhu Sangha, association with the devotees. You are all associating with the devotees, and also take an initiation from your Guru Maharaj. So then you do that, and then bhajan kriya, then you perform the devotion service, and then anartha nivritti, decreasing of unwanted attachments, right? Most of us, most of the time, Prabhuji Mataji, we get to first three steps and we get stuck in step number 4. Let me give you an example of anartha nivritti. For example, let's say, for example, you decide to attend the Mangala Aarti, or if you decide to, observe fast, yeah, and then you decide to observe Ekadashi fast, and then you are thinking, oh my Lord, my doctor has told me that I should be eating every day at least some minimum food because I have diabetes, I have blood pressure, I have this and that. I'm not asking anyone to take extreme steps or risk your health, but if I start thinking, or let's say staying up for the Mangala Aarti, if you sleep at midnight or sleep at 11, and then you say, oh, somebody said 6 hours sleep, right? Then you're thinking, for Mangala Aarti, should I wake up at 4 or 5? No, but I have to sleep for 6 hours minimum. Maybe I get up at 6 p.m. So that's where anartha nivritti. So anarthas, anarth means जिसका कोई अर्थ नहीं है, अर्थहीन जो हमारी एक्टिविटीज है, उससे निवृत्ति is to getting away from these earthहीन activities or earthहीन thought process. So that is called earth, like anartha nivritti. Then next stage is nishtha, right? So nishtha is about more of, for example, if you are doing chanting, so step 4 could be, oh, I have to do 16 rounds every day, maybe I do 12 today, I can do another 4 tomorrow, so still in that, iffy mind. But when you get to nishtha stage, steadiness, then you're telling yourself, oh, I have to chant, right? Or I will have to chant, right? So you are getting some steady. So the thinking is, oh, yes, I have to chant, or I'm having to chant, right? So still that, but there is a steadiness there, right? Then not taste hasn't developed. Then the next stage is ruchi. Then you say, ruchi, oh, I want to chant, right? I like to chant. I like to chant the holy names, right? I like to serve this, I like to serve the Supreme Lord. So then you have developed that taste. Then the next stage is asakti. Then you start feeling asakti. Oh, I'm so happy to be given the opportunity to chant, right? Or to be given an opportunity to serve the Supreme Lord. So that's where you are developing that attachment, right? And then, and then after that, then the next stage is the bhav. When you have the asakti, so that it is the next state. And when we get strong in our asakti and strong in our attachment, then slowly, slowly the bhav will come from inside. The love will come. The love will develop. And that's where Prabhuji Mataji, the door to the Supreme Lord, I mean, it is already open, right? But that's where the door opens up and all the bhavas start coming. So these are the various stages of Bhakti Yoga. So the whole point of studying the scriptures is to pass through these various stages. And for these stages, on the right-hand side, you have the process. Yeah. So what process we do to pass from one stage to next stage to the next stage. And then the final stage is the prem. Yeah. Raganuga Bhakti that we say, right? As exhibited by the gopis, right? Unconditional love. Yeah. Krishnarthe akhil chesta. Everything then you start doing for Krishna. Then you are not thinking what you like, right? Then you are doing everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, not for your satisfaction. Very often we get stuck. I want to serve Krishna. Then you say, oh, I want to serve Krishna, but in my own way, right? But pure love means how Krishna wants us to be served. And Prabhupada in the purport says, we do experience that feeling, Prabhuji Mataji. We do experience that feeling in our day-to-day lives. We experience that feeling in our family environment. For example, if you have parents, if you have children, right? As a mother, you like to cook how your children will like, right? Initially when husband, wife, then wife likes to cook how husband likes. But then as the children are growing up, then the mood changes. Then she's already planning, how will my son like, or how will my daughter like this? So now the mood is not for us. Now is also the mood is not for you think what is healthy for your son. No, you are thinking what my son feels is healthy for himself, right? Or what he's gonna like. Even if it's your own recipe, you want to feed them a lot of ghee, proteins, etc. But you still making it, cooking it in such a way, how will my son like it, right? So the whole perspective changes, right? So then everything we are doing for the satisfaction of Krishna. So this is the change of heart. This is how it works step by step. But they start with Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangot Atha Bhajan Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Syat Tato Nishtha Ruchis Tatha. So like this, we go through step by step, Prabhuji Mataji, and we all can check. We all can check ourselves, where do we stand, and there is a process. Once again, Prahlad Maharaj spoke this, among his friends. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Yeah, so these are the processes. You can pick up any process. There are examples of each process. For example, Sakyam, Arjun and Krishna, Dasyam, Hanuman, Lord Ram, yeah. And then, serving the Lord's lotus feet, Lakshmi Devi, even though she has a position to sit on the, Shrivats. Yeah. So she has a position to sit close to the heart of the Supreme Lord, but she's always sitting near the feet of the Supreme Lord. Pada Sevanam, 24 hours. Do you ever see Mother Lakshmi sitting anywhere else? She's always sitting and massaging the feet of the Supreme Lord. Is there anything wrong with his feet? Has he got like a knee problem? No. Out of love, out of sheer love, she wants to serve. Pada Sevanam. Yeah. Smaranam, Vishnu Smaranam. Yeah. Prahlad Maharaj, he was remembering, he was remembering Krishna all the time. Hearing Parikshit Maharaj, he's just gonna hear and hear. And we will see. And what to speak of others? Shaunakadi Rishi, they want to hear more and more. So they're asking people like yourself, you have joined this session, right? Even though I'm not speaking, even though I'm speaking out of turn, I may not be, my speaking might not be palatable, but you still come because you want to hear Hari Katha. It's not about, Parthasatya Ashram Venuvadik Dasu, but because you like Hari Katha. That is the, yeah. So now after Shaunakadi Rishi, they had spoken to Sut Goswami, they have encouraged him to speak more. So then they say to him, Atha vidheyang gamanonukulam prabhasase bhagavata pradhana yad ahavaya sakiratma vidya visharado nriptim sadhu prishta. So now they're saying, Ath abhidheyang. Ath, therefore, abhidheya, please tell us, Ang, O Sut Goswami, please tell us manonukulam. Whatever is coming into your mind. We don't care whether you speak in the sequence, what was asked by Parikshit Maharaj and what was spoken by Shukdev Goswami. Another lesson, sometime when we are hearing, we want to hear as per my liking. Oh, this Prabhu is speaking in a different way. I've read it differently, but he's speaking in a different, no, that's fine. As long as Lord Krishna's Katha is there. So we have to develop that power, and it will take time. It can't be just, pretending ourselves, oh, no, I'm enjoying Hari Katha. That's fine. It will take time, but we have to develop, and there is that process, Prabhuji, right? So they are saying, Mano Anukulam, whatever is your Mano Anukul, please speak. Prabhashase, please speak to us, Bhagavat Pradhana, because you are the Bhagavat Pradhan. You are the Pradhan of the Bhagavatas. You are the topmost Bhagavat. Please speak about him. Or the Bhagavat. You know about the Supreme Lord. Please speak manonukulam, whatever comes in your mind. Yad aha Vyasa kiratma vidya. What yad aha, whatever was spoken by Vyasakir. Vyasakir, who is son of Vyasdev, whatever was spoken by Vyasdev about what? Atma vidya. Right? The science of the soul or the adhyatmic, right? Whatever was spoken by the son of Vyasdev, who is Visharad. Visharad, who is expert, You know, you have often heard this term Visharad, Sangeet Visharad. He is expert in the music. So whatever was spoken by the son of Vyasdev, Nripatim. Nripatim is Nripatim is who was the king of all the living entities. So Parikshit Maharaj is leading by example. Another thing to learn from this verse. He is the Pati of the Nra, of the all the living entities, right? They could have said Visharado Raja. They could have asked King, Raja. They could have used the word king, but specifically Prabhuji Mataji, very important. Shaunaka Rishi is saying Nripatim, who was the king, who was the Pati, who was the protector of all the living entities. As a family, you are the protector of your family. So you make important questions, important inquiries. So that's what they are referring to. Whatever was asked by Parikshit Maharaj, as in Prishta, Sadhu, Parikshit Maharaj, who was also Sadhu, and Shukdev Goswami was also a Sadhu. Yeah, Sadhu. Bhagwan Kapil Dev in the third canto, when he's speaking to Mata Devuti, he describes the quality of a sadhu. Suhrada Sarvadehi Nam. That is the quality of a sadhu. So Parikshit Maharaj, because he is a suhrada, he is a well-wisher of all the living entities. That is why he made these questions. Otherwise, he had already seen the Supreme Lord. So he's making these questions for everyone, right? That was his question once again. Purushasya iha yat karyam mriyamanasya sarvatha, what they should be doing. So now Shaunakadi Rishi, they're saying, "Oh Sut Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Shukdev Goswami, who is very expert, Visharad, in transcendental knowledge, Atma Vidya, and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked." So this concludes the third chapter, Prabhuji Mataji, of the second canto. We have gone a bit over the time, but I hope it was not boring for anyone. But this is how the change of heart happens. So finally, in the first section, Shukdev Goswami spoke about the demigod worship, and in the second section, he has mentioned this is the question by the Shaunakadi Rishi, and they have compared, they have described the non-humans and limb by limb description of non-humans. Now we can see where do we fit and what we should be doing. So we'll conclude here, and then next week we'll discuss chapter 4. So now if anyone has any question, you can please unmute yourself. Otherwise, we will stop here.
So much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yes, I think we can sign off for now. Everyone else, yeah. Krishna Prabhu, Shanti Mataji. Thank you, Shanti Mataji. Thank you, Pawan Prabhu. Harika Mataji, Kavita Mataji.
Hare
Shanti
Krishna
Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, Mataji, Prabhuji's Mataji, Granthra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Srila Gurudev. So we'll see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Vinod Prabhuji ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji.